So Carmelo left after he stabbed this person, and he walked up to these people and he said, "Yeah, I did it. There's no guessing. I did it. It was self-defense." Well, that's not what's showing in court. And a lot of people are upset for things like there are no black jurors. Well, it's hard to have a black juror when somebody says, "I don't think I could send a black boy to prison." I'm sorry, but we're not talking about a black boy here. We are talking about a murderer. These are simple concepts that, unless your brain is so caught up in this identity politics, only my group matters, this is pretty cut and dry. He admitted to murdering him. Now we'll find out if it's self-defense because the trial has just started. But how do people get to a point where their identity politics are so, it is the only thing that defines them? Well, let's take a look at how we get there. We're going to go all the way back to post-apartheid. And as we go to post-apartheid, we had Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. And these two people did the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I should get a bigger photo of myself. Okay, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, healing our past. Now, a lot of people felt that, and I'm saying this as somebody who's interviewed multiple people from South Africa. A lot of people were worried when Nelson Mandela became president. They were afraid that the young man who went into jail, who did bomb and terrorize South Africa, that this man was going to get out and be a dictator. And he really wasn't. He really wasn't. For a while, people were working together. They were trying to get past color. And so this was the time of Nelson Mandela. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was under Desmond Tutu, and it had restorative justice. Remember that term, restorative justice, truth-telling for healing, not punishment, and a hopeful start. The late 1990s through 2003, there was a shift under a man named Mbeki to economic redress. And here's where things got more angry, more grievance centered. Policies came into place with something called the B-BBEE, which is the broad-based Black economic empowerment. Broad-based Black economic empowerment, which allows you today to discriminate against white people. Now, the common sense kind of thing is that when a wrong happens, we should learn from it. That's what I always tell my students. Like, we learn history to learn from the past and not repeat the mistakes that we've made, and to repeat the things that we did right. But instead, they take racism from one side and take it all the way to the other, and in some pretty extreme ways that a lot of people honestly didn't experience. I talked to people, again, from South Africa, white South Africans who grew up, and for them, they're servants, and yes, they were their servants, so you might have to wrestle with that kind of thought, but their servants were like members of the family. And whatever you think about that, and trust me, I would not want to have lived there, but whatever you think about that, compared to songs like Kill the Boer, compared to people having to lock and secure and to work together to make sure that people don't come and assault their women and children, to use a nail gun on elderly women to kill them, those kind of things versus being the chauffeur, I mean, you have to wrestle with it. But I think that a reasonable person would say that one is quite a bit more dangerous than the other. One is quite a bit more of a hardship. And one of the things that I found interesting is I was watching some documentaries on South Africa and how scary it is. How if you get into a taxi today, you may not make it to where you're going. And the taxi driver goes, "It didn't used to be this bad. Times were better before." And the taxi driver was a black man. And then there's also things like colorism that goes with this broad-based black economic empowerment. Colorism, meaning that someone like me who is more fair of an African American would be a less of a class than a very, very dark person. See, bigotry, it is an absolute lie that bigotry only goes in one way and it's only by white people. It's not. Racism, the same thing. It is not only one direction and only by white people. In fact, the other day I was listening to a teacher speak, and he had said that in his class, he, tried to create this rainbow coalition, all of these kids who were different in the UK, all of these kids who could get along totally differently. And then all of a sudden he had an immigrant girl come into class, and there were two boys in the class, and they were very, very nice boys, like the most friendly kids. And so he puts this new girl in a row with them, and she's very upset, and she says something and he doesn't know what she says. So he takes her to a teacher who can interpret it. And the young immigrant girl said, "I don't want to be with the blacks." So we need to stop pretending. And the fact is that every minority knows. I'm pretty sure everyone knows, but most people have gotten this place where we must self-censor and can't say the truth. But pretty sure every minority knows that different minorities oftentimes do not get along with each other. So this whole manufactured, we will work together, will all be one thing, isn't going to happen. And it certainly isn't going to happen with bad policy. So let's take a look at some of that bad policy. So this was the B-BBEE explained. And it says it measures the effective partnership of ethnicities by Black people, of entities by Black people. Sorry, it's kind of hard to read. I'm going to go back to my other one just because that's where all of my notes are. So let me go over here. And let's see. Institutionalized racial preferences, egregious anti-white policies, racial targets for Black ownership, transfer stakes to Black partners. So they would just take away property. Oh, kind of like what's going on, what Mom Donnie in New York is talking about. They would take away property to Black partners. Whites got a score of 0. So they're counting this scorecard. And on this scorecard, if you are white, you count as 0 for your business, which can put your business in a lot of hot water. Okay, so they managed control, hiring, promotions, procurement, government contracts require high scores. So they were giving people better opportunities based on the fact that they were African American, in a way of, in their view, reconciling. Okay. One of the things you have to understand is that the Boers have been there for like 400 years. And where they took land was a place that other people didn't come. Like sometimes people would migrate down for a season and then they would leave, but people didn't inhabit this. They did not know how to farm. And so they took this land from these farming communities that fed all of these other people. And they said, "No, we don't like white people, so we're going to just take them away from you." And then unfortunately, people started starving because they couldn't farm. Again, bad policy. Bad policy, maybe with empathy, but as you'll find, a ton of these people at the top are as corrupt as it gets. They're living like kings while the people are dying, while they are starving because of bad policy. So preferential procurement, white-owned businesses lose out on state work, land expropriation targets white farmers, tied to kill the boar. Okay. Um, the outcomes: elite enrichment for some, persistent Black poverty, more poverty than before, high unemployment, high immigration, or the whites were leaving and they were the ones who knew how to do the business and they were leaving. All of this matters because we have bad policy in America today. And here's the thing: at the same time, about when this was all coming into fruition, okay, so this stuff starts in broad based, so just about the same time as we get a new president. And so this is the new president that we get, and everybody's so excited. Oh my gosh, we have started to heal. We have started to heal because um we're no longer I'm going to try to say it without laughing. We're no longer racist as a society because we elected a Black man. But see, the people who did that were only focused on race, which I think arguably proves that they are quite race centered and by extension racist.